Hey YouTube, Steve here from Vegas Westside Shooters. Today we're doing a video regarding our new cartridge of choice for IDPA, which is, well, my new cartridge of choice, which is the 38 Super that I'm shooting in my Tanfoglio Witness Elite Limited. And the reason I'm doing this quick video is because I really didn't know much about 38 Super before I purchased the gun, and when I originally saw it at the gun show, it came in 9mm 38 Super or 40 cal, and I was trying to decide what chambering I wanted to buy the gun in, so I did a little bit of research, and I really didn't know much about 38 Super. It turns out that for many of the competitive leagues like USPSA and 3-gun, many of the top competitors shoot firearms in 38 Super. It's not used in the United States by law enforcement or the military. It is used in Mexico by law enforcement pretty extensively, and the reason that it's used a lot by USPSA competitors and in law enforcement is because it's a more powerful cartridge than 9mm, but isn't up to the recoil of 40 cal or 45 caliber. It essentially shoots the same projectile as a 9mm round, but it has a larger case and more powder. So just to show you, for comparison's sake, here is. Let's see if I can do this next to each other so you can see it here. There is a 9mm versus 38 Super, and you can see the 38 Super is about 25% longer of a cartridge. It's the same diameter and it's the same projectile, so you can use the same bullets in both rounds, but obviously with a longer case, and the 38 Super, I believe the case is slightly thicker as well. It can take more powder, and so you get a much faster projectile from the same barrel, and therefore more energy. So when you're competing in USPSA, they have something called power factor, and there's the major power factor and the minor power factor, and depending on which grouping you're in, it changes your scoring. And the smallest caliber that counts as a major power factor is the 38 Super. So 9mm puts you in the minor power factor, which gives you a lower multiplier for your score, as far as I understand. And 38 Super puts you in the major without having to have the recoil of a 40 caliber or 45 caliber. And they get the power factor by multiplying the weight of the bullet times the muzzle velocity, and gives them the power factor, which is really like the energy coming out at the muzzle. So today we're going to take out our 38 Super, and we're going to shoot some Arms Corps 125 grain rounds, and then we're also going to shoot some of my hand loads. And this is a 115 grain hollow point Hornady XTP round, which I hand loaded with about 6 grains of unique powder. And just to give you an example of the difference in the powder, in the hand loads, if you're loading with unique powder, for the 38 Super, the starting load is 5.4 grains, and for 9mm it's only 4.4 grains. So you're putting about 25% more powder in the 38 Super as you are in the 9mm, which obviously more powder gives you more internal pressure, which launches the projectile at a faster rate. So we're gonna go out and shoot these. We're gonna use the chronometer to measure the muzzle velocity at 3 feet, and we'll multiply that by the weight of the bullet, and then we'll compare that to the previous. We did a previous video, which I'll put a link to in the bottom of this, which showed the power of the 9mm out of different barrels, so you can see the difference in energy from 38 Super versus 9mm. So we're going to head out to the range, and I hope you stick with us. All right, so first we're going to shoot using the Tanfoglio Witness Elite Limited. We're going to shoot the Arms Corps 125 grain 38 Super, 5 shots. Range is hot. $12.53. $12.52. Well, nothing if not consistent. $12.75. Nice. $12.68. $12.48. So $12.50 to $12.75. Next up will be the hand loads. Okay, here comes the 115 grain hand loads. Range is hot. $12.86. It's hotter than that. Okay, store box. $12.70. $12.49. $12.48. And $12.83. And they function well out of the Tanfoglio Witness Elite Limited. These are hollow points. They're Hornady XTP copper plated hollow points, and I think they performed at least as well as the store-bought arms core. So we're going to head back to the garage and do some calculations of energy and compare them to the 9mm. Stick with us. Okay, I'm back at the garage, and I calculated the average muzzle velocity for the loads for the 38 Super, and then used the shooter's calculator to calculate out muzzle energy. And I'm comparing this to the muzzle energy calculations I made on my previous video of muzzle energy versus, muzzle velocity versus barrel length, which I did. I've done several of those, but the one I did for 22 cal and 9mm, I took those calculations because they're going to be close enough. And so when I looked at those, and I'll put a link at the bottom in the description if you want to look at that video or not. But basically, so starting with the 125 grain factory load from Arms Corps, we had an average velocity of 1,260 feet per second with 125 grain round. That gives you a calculation of 441 foot-pounds of energy. For the 9mm that we used, which was 124 grain Aguila factory ammo, we got a calculation of 365 foot-pounds of energy. So that is approximately 20 to 25% increase in muzzle energy from 365 to 441 with the 38 Super. When you look at the 115 grain with the 9mm, we calculated out 372 foot-pounds of energy out of the CZ-P09. And for the hand loads of the 115 grain out of the Tanfoglio, which has a pretty similar barrel length to the CZ, we had an average velocity of 1,267 feet per second, which gave us 410 foot-pounds of energy. So that's only an increase of about a little more than 10% increase in energy. Now, one comment I'll make for this is I'm new to hand loading and reloading, and so I loaded these 38 Super hand loads really pretty close to the bottom pressures because I'm not 100% confident yet, and so I didn't want to push it to maximum pressures and blow up my gun. So this 10% energy increase is with a minimal loaded 38 Super, compared to the factory where we got almost a well, more than a 20% increase, more like 25% increase in muzzle energy between the 124 grain factory load 9mm and the 125 grain factory load 38 Super. So when you're comparing factory loads and not my wussy hand loads, you get a pretty good increase in muzzle energy, pushing out the same size bullet out of roughly the same size barrel. So the answer to the question, 38 Super, is it? The answer is it's pretty super compared to 9mm. And if you are going to use a caliber for self-defense, the only problem with 38 Super is finding the ammo is not so easy. There's a lot of plus P out there, but my gun specifically says in the owner's manual, do not use plus P ammunition. So as far as non-plus P 38 Super, the only stuff I can find is the Arms Core 125 grain. And that's why one of the reasons I started hand loading was to be able to choose amongst weight of bullets and the pressure in the ammo. And then the other thing about 38 Super is because of that increase in energy, it actually meets the threshold for the major power factor in USPSA. So if you want to shoot competition USPSA, or I even think IPSC, you can use this caliber and you'll get probably the least recoil you can get in the major power factor compared to, say, 40 caliber or 45 caliber. So I think 38 Super is pretty super, and I really like shooting it, and I think it's very controllable. I don't have any issue with the recoil any more than with the 9mm, and I'm having some fun hand loading it. So I hope everybody liked this video, and I hope you'll give 38 Super a try. Steve for Vegas Westside Shooters, as usual, thanks for watching.